Growing Up Aspen podcast here with Chris Pomeroy and Andy Collin, and we're interviewing Ted Conover. And I'd like to start out with the first question of your journey to Aspen. And it's my connection to you started with the Writers Conference. And so I sort of was hoping to hear some of how the Writers Conference influenced you, affected you, and what you thought about it when you got here.
Sure. I was living in Denver at the time, and I'd written 2 books. And a writer I'd met at the Breadloaf Writers Conference in Vermont heard they needed a nonfiction writer at the Aspen Writers Conference, and would I be interested? And I was just figuring out how to survive as a freelance writer, and this idea of teaching as part of it was new to me. But I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. And I had a blast. It was the longest extended period of time I'd stayed in Aspen. As you said, Andy, I stayed with your family, which was great. It was like study abroad or something. I got to live with local people and meet your brother and meet your amazing mom. And it was just like a quarter mile from where I had totaled the family station wagon when I was 16. My dad had rented a house and let me, just right after I got my license, I'd driven the station wagon downhill and crashed into a Jeep driven by the girlfriend of the DA. And it was a disaster. I mean, no one was hurt, but that was my previous big memory of Aspen. So it was nice to move beyond that to, sort of Aspen as an adult, which I think in a lot of people's minds, Aspen is a place for grownups. And what I really like about your project is it highlights how it was a place for kids as well, including you guys.
What year did you come for the Writers Conference? I can't remember what year that was.
Oh my gosh. It might have been 88. It might have been 87.
Okay.
Would that have been possible, as you recall?
It could have been. And that would mean I was right out of like my first year in college or something like that.
Oh, interesting. So, yeah, but you were maybe home for the summer?
Yeah.
Come
home a bunch. Something like that.
Part of my... I asked your mom how I could, pay for rent. When I came back, she put me up till I found a place to stay, and she said, "Well, you could do the hot tub maintenance." And I thought,
which was my job.
Anyway, I thought that was perfect.
Well, it's funny because my parents, they weren't like Elks Club members. They were in the community, but they weren't, and they knew people, but they weren't like Elks Club folks, which were the old ranchers and everybody. But the way they kind of was in the community was the organizations and events that they liked, they would support. So they would go in and help and volunteer and do things. And so one of the things they did with the Writers Conference, which I think subliminally my mom was sort of doing research for the book that she would eventually write. Storm of the Eye. But yep. I feel like... so what they did was and it was interesting because we got to meet people when people would come and stay at our house. It was an interesting experience to have new, different folks, and especially writers, because they're so coming from all different angles. No one is the same kind of writer.
No, there's no two resemble each other very much, right? And yeah, I came along with a poet from Denver named Ben Ramke. As I recall, we both stayed at your house, and it was heavenly.
Yeah, it was great there, right up on Highlands. It was really wonderful. It's a neat place.